the North End. This is the North End.
What up, people? My name is Paul Forrest, and I am one of the members of the North End podcast, also known as a YouTube team. I am joined in no particular order by my man, Brian Ireland, joining us live from the basement of his ex-girlfriend, who he hopes will never notice. That's where he's been hiding all these years. Weirdly, in the room next door because they dated the same girl, David Convery. Did you guys know you were in the same
Dave,
room? I don't know.
I'm knocking on it. Can you hear me knocking there, buddy?
2-3 taps, yeah. Knock 3 times and see on the window or something.
Exactly.
If you can hear knocking in her room, I'll tell you who it is. Well, I won't say it because I don't want to frame anybody. I don't want anybody to show.
It's all making sense now, Paul. It's all making sense.
Is that the president? Is that the president of the Thibaut Courtois fan club right there? Is that who that is, or is that Azaz? It's one of the two.
I think it's.
We're shooting shots right away. And unfortunately, I have some bad news. JP California's sleeves couldn't join us today, but he could. So here we go.
There it is. It's hot in California.
It's stupid. Like, we don't have snow. We don't even have water here. We just melt. So it was like 94 degrees today. It's ungodly in my garage.
Relax, Muscle Beach. Take it easy, pal.
Jesus Christ. Do some more push-ups before the show, why don't you?
You're wearing like a sweater. I don't know what that's
right. What's up? How is everybody?
Now that the gun show's on, I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
Oh my God, that's just
sexual tension is real.
It's scary what you guys said. It's an interesting thing that just happened before we got on because we always have a chance to talk for a couple seconds before everybody digs into it. And I remember vividly a brief moment where basically JP was like, "I'm tired of you fucking Man United fans complaining that your season was bad. You've been spoiled like children. Who do you think you are?" And I think he was more talking to David Convery than was to me. But
he definitely was talking.
I'll answer it. I'm sorry. You support Aston Villa. I support United. My club has expectations to finish at least top 4. Yours doesn't, and it's frustrating for me. But you make a good point. I should be more empathetic to the rest of other clubs in the Premier League.
You're going to be joining us, so you have to learn these trades.
Are you in there? Are you in the Europa League?
No. Are you in college?
Oh, okay.
Bragging about the Europa League. Bragging.
Well. I mean, you were. I mean, what was the thing that you were in last season? Was the Conference League?
I wasn't bragging about it, Colin.
You gotta finish.
As should you be.
You gotta finish somewhere, in the table to
meet.
To get either. I mean, if Conference League would be like winning a trophy for Aston Villa.
You're closer to us than you were to top 4. So
you're probably right. It was a rough season.
That's not wrong. This started well.
Great.
No, Connie's defended
it's
himself.
been good, guys. Everybody's leaving now.
Yeah.
No wonder there's not been videos. Nobody can stand
just don't engage. Just don't engage. Just be like,
hard,
cool,
man.
Tough season. I'll take my chops. Just don't have to engage.
This one was harder than usual for me. But you're right. I got easy. You know what? JP is correct. I got to be a man about it. Lick my wounds and move forward. You know what I mean? And I will.
You gotta like look at the bright side of what's gonna happen next, right? Like that's gotta be. I mean, if Brian can be optimistic, having been a Spurs fan for how long, we can all learn a little bit about being optimistic.
Hey, that's right, man. If you want to understand what it's like to be in a ton of pain on a regular basis, despite feeling like you're gonna get something out of it and still failing at the last hurdle. Welcome to Spursy. Welcome to Spursy, folks.
Paul and I were around early on in the Pochettinos when Brian. Now I think Brian is now like a sensible Spurs fan, but there was a year and a half, and Paul knows what I'm talking about, where it was diluted. It was diluted, Brian, and I'm very proud of how far he's come.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, Connie. I'm not going to argue that point. I think there's a definitely some truth in the matter that I was 100% diluted in what I thought was happening. Having said that, there was good reason for the delusion, despite our previous experience with Spurs. We all know that they were crap and basically failed on a regular basis. But with Pochettino, we were so close, and that in itself is Spursy. But you can understand the excitement and the thought that like getting there would bring about delusions such as
regular Golden Boot winner Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Ericsson was on fire. You had those two center backs, both of them
Gareth
played their way
Bale.
out of any
Best
trouble.
defense in the
like-
league for 2 seasons.
Yeah,
running.
great
No,
recruitment.
not Gareth Bale. Things had gone off the rails by the
He
time
had
Gareth
left.
Bale
He had
showed
left
up.
already. He had left.
I'm talking pre-Gareth Bale period when they were like deep into the Champions
Kyle
League.
Walker. Kyle Walker was
2014,
Oh,
15,
Kyle
16,
Walker.
2016, 2017. those 2
Vandervaart,
seasons.
man.
We
I
went
miss Vandervaart.
we went unbeaten at home for an entire season and beat United.
And I
in
know
the
we're
final.
going all over the place,
Anyway.
but if he keeps going, is it fair to say? Let's see, he has another season or two. Because I'm starting to think this, and I'm already nailing him down. Kyle Walker, maybe best right back to ever play in the Premier League era. Like I put him ahead of Gary
yeah.
Neville. I've got him I've got him ahead of Trent right now. But I
Get out of here.
Trent has a long way to go.
dude,
Get out of here.
dude,
Trent
he
has a long
can
way to go.
do both. No one can defend like Kyle, man.
I disagree.
Okay, hang on,
I'm-
David.
I'm-
You've said your thing. Let's get his ass. Like that's
Hijack,
let's unpack
baby.
his response.
Firstly, I was going to say, I actually know a really big Tottenham fan who's a good friend of mine who thought, like, straight up till the day we beat them at Anfield, Firmino scored in the last minute, was 1,000,000% convinced you guys were winning the league under Mourinho last
Deluded.
season, 2020, 2021.
Yeah,
And, like,
I mean, I think the many Spurs fans hopped on that wagon.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know about winning the league per se, but certainly competing for it because we were
Yeah.
playing. Despite the shit football we were playing, we were winning the games we should have. We were top of the league,
Yeah.
and we should have won that game, arguably based on the passages of play. But yeah, it was diluted at the time. It's still diluted now. But with Conte, I think we are competing for top 3. I think that's accurate.
Money.
Considering Chelsea's scenario, we've got
Depend
money.
if he gives you the money and he
They
brings
just
some
announced
guys
it
in.
like a week and a half ago, 150 million.
Let's see them buy the players, man. Let's see them buy the
Perisic coming
players.
in. Anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah. We're buying players, buddy. You're just jealous because you're not getting any good ones.
As long
They're all
as
coming to
you know
us
how it
now.
goes. You know how it goes, though. It's not even buying the players, and we've been through this the
I
last
know,
5 or
fucking
6 years. It's buying the right players, right? Like
Oh
we've
yeah,
all
but
seen it.
Conte's brilliant at that, and so is Paratici. So I have no doubt we're going to be in a good position at the end of the season.
Speaking of
or end
buying
of the summer.
players,
Yeah,
Let's
Villa.
get into
Villa get
The
a few
latest-
guys.
let's get into the latest rumors, I think, and then everybody can like start blowing their loads about what their fucking purchases are, and even though nobody's actually done anything yet,
Perisic.
except maybe today. Yeah, okay, yeah.
3 players.
Let's get
I
excited.
love that people
Um,
laugh about that. Best left back in Serie A last season, but he's
He's not a
getting
left back, but okay.
left wing back. Sure he is.
Yeah.
It's the position he
Sure.
played for Inter. So
Yeah, a lot of really quality guys coming from Italy.
Oh, I like
making
that
really-
signing. I don't want to knock that. I think that's a good signing. But again, we'll see. And Brian, we've talked about it. Can he make that transition? If he can, it's a great signing. 33, looks like he stays in shape. But yeah, this one today was the fucking big one.
This is a big one, folks. This is the hottest, youngest, most dominant defensive midfield player in France that just eats up the ground, just tackles everything and anything, leads the league in interceptions and tackles, is widely considered to be like the generational get when it comes to the next
Yep.
brand of defensive midfield players. Going to a Real Madrid team that last summer got the other generational player that everybody was talking about, Camavinga.
Yeah.
So now they have 2 of the young hot studs that both happen to be the French young hot studs joining them, and I suspect will probably still be playing second fiddle to the current roster of midfield players there, which is
too bad they're not coming to the Prem. It's unfortunate
Same.
that we're.
Mhm.
I'm a little relieved because there was a lot of talk about them going to Liverpool, and I was like, I can't have that.
Yeah, you guys would be shattered.
wow.
It's already bad enough for you.
I think
Apparently
the
they
league
were-
would have
that-
been shattered. I don't think it's just on us.
They were in for him. Apparently, them and PSG were in for him, but he wanted Real Madrid the whole way. Real Madrid are doing the business. They are coming back. I know they won the Champions League, and again, we all know how that game went. Like the keeper, I would say they were lucky to win the Champions League, but they've come back. They've won La Liga. They've had financial problems and haven't been spending for years. They are rebuilding in the right way, and you could say whatever you want. Real Madrid is still probably the biggest draw for young European players in world football. It used to be.
Do you say it like you can say what you want? They just won Champions League for like
Yeah.
how many times?
Okay,
10
Azaz.
years.
Azaz, you watched the game. You watched the game. Were they the better? Yeah. Sorry.
Of the mic, mate. Yeah, please.
Were they outplayed in that game dramatically? They had one shot on target. It went in.
Yeah, I don't think I said this yesterday on the Director of Football show. Plug, give that a watch. I don't think we were at our best by any means. I think Liverpool generally ended up running out of legs in the last 3-4 weeks, which is expected after 60 games. But like Real Madrid were nothing special. They won the Champions League, so you have to give them props. I think all of our teams have won matches we didn't deserve to, finals we didn't deserve to. At the end of the day, history remembers the winners, and credit to them. I made peace with it. I wore a France Benzema shirt this week just to like get it done, get it out of the way. He deserves everything he gets. Real Madrid deserve what they get. But nah, they were nothing special in the final. They were nothing special against Chelsea, against Man City. So,
Oh my
yeah,
god. Okay, can
I
we
just I
pause
love
for a
this.
second?
Nothing special, but the
What is
team went
this?
on to win the fucking
You just-
tournament. I mean,
you
give
just
me a
was
break.
hang on. So we won the
an
Champions
insane
League.
amount of teams they had to beat to get to the
Sure,
final
sure.
yet again. And
We
Dave
won
Convery,
this.
like giving
listen.
this like half-assed, say what you will, they're still a draw. They're Real Madrid.
Of course,
They're the
Real
biggest.
Madrid. But
I
we-
said they're the biggest straw, the biggest in Europe.
Yeah, and I wouldn't argue with that. Like generationally, Real Madrid are a great team, but like we won the Champions League in 2005 and finished 5th. Like,
But
doesn't-
hold on. But hold
It's
on.
tournament football. It's different. I
Yeah,
get
thank
that.
you, thank you.
Sure.
Can we all agree? There's five
Connie,
of us.
can you do us a favor with the mic?
Am I too close? Am I too
yeah,
close?
Yeah,
you're
you're
too
yelling.
close.
It's a bit.
Okay.
It's
I'll-
also
okay.
your deviated septum. Stop
It's
breathing
true.
through your goddamn nose.
I've had
Nose
two
breathing going
I've
on.
had two surgeries. None of them took. Can we all agree here? Like, let's be very fair and transparent that if any of us on this, all five of us, had to pick the two best teams on the planet, we'd still pick Manchester City and Liverpool. Like we would, right?
No,
Why?
I'd pick Man City.
'Cause
I'd
they're
pick
not.
They
Man
are.
City and Real Madrid. Sorry,
I mean,
You shouldn't.
even right now, as of
and
today,
not
I would
because
still say
Liverpool
Real
was
Madrid.
out, but just because. of
Why
the
would you
style of
say
play.
that? Like if they both played in the same league, right, and they played 38 games or whatever it is, you think Real Madrid would finish above Liverpool?
No.
They just wouldn't.
And
They are the two best teams, guys.
and
I'm
Man-
not talking about
and
trophies.
You can't compare
And
that.
Man City had
You
three
can. It's
chances.
it's over a league period of time. It's over
Thank you.
38 games. A tournament, anything can happen because it's knockout football. You can have a random injury. You can have a random thing happen in the game. You can have a lot of different small circumstances in a tournament situation where, like what happened in Real Madrid, they end up getting to the final and winning. Don't get me wrong; they deserve to win it. They deserve to get there.
Of course.
They did
They're
all
the
those
Champions
things
League
together.
winners.
They're Champions League winners,
Yeah.
but it is it's tournament football. It is
That's
not
right.
the same as
Okay.
winning the league. Winning the
Okay.
league over a 38-game season, playing everybody twice, home and away, is the hardest thing to do to win the league. And Liverpool
Correct.
have been plus 90 points multiple times. They're a better team than Real Madrid across
Yeah.
that
Okay, hold
length
on,
of
hold
time.
on.
In the
Wait,
tournament,
hold on.
they got beat.
Hang
Hold
on,
on.
hang on.
Who won? Who
You know,
won La Liga?
Real Madrid won La Liga. Like,
Wait,
Are you
they
good?
won
Okay,
two different
hold on.
leagues.
Are you
It's
two
La Liga.
comparing La Liga to the Premier League?
No,
like,
I'm
You
saying-
shouldn't. You shouldn't.
I'm arguing
So
your
the
point
league winner
against you.
of the Premier League is always going to be a better team than the league winner of any other league. Is what you're
Right
saying?
now, yeah, that gap is like this. It used to be like this. It's now this, Paul, and you know that. You've talked about this.
don't
It
know
goes
that
in
because
cycles, though.
I-
It goes in
I-
cycles.
We've all talked about it here, guys. We've all talked
Am
about
I
it.
not
We all
mistaken
have.
here? All right, but am I not mistaken here? Did Real Madrid not beat Manchester City, the league winners of the Premier League, in 2 games, and then beat Liverpool, the second place
True.
team?
Tournament football.
And a
Tournament.
Yeah.
And tournament
Oh, okay.
football. Things went their way.
Spurs beat Man City in the Premier League twice. Finished
Yeah.
fourth. So
Okay.
so yeah, it's over the course of 35 games. It's not a one-off
Yeah.
time. Totally
I think
different.
JP and I are in a little bit of
Yeah.
a disagreement here. It's going to unpack itself, but the point is, Real Madrid today
Mhm.
got better by a significant margin, and
Oh,
will
yeah.
be much better as a result of this signing in the next 5 years. Over the next 5 years,
long-term
they've got
long-term
themselves
It will be really interesting to
a
see
likely
how
legitimate.
Camavinga plays with this guy.
I think they're. I mean, I think they're going to take it.
I mean, they're gonna make it
That's
work,
the
but
one.
I'm
That's
still
the one.
interested. You got Cruz and you got Modric.
They got
You
those
got
are
those
players that are
four.
coming to their end of their
Casemiro
run,
as
right?
well. Casemiro's their
Yeah.
starting defensive midfielder who is also world class.
Oh.
But again, they've got that aging midfield. I think Camavinga was 18 when they signed him. This guy's what, 20? And the
22.
What incredible signing. Like this will be for me, this will be the signing of the summer. Like regardless of what anybody else, well, there's some other big ones, but this
let's
is
talk. Let's-
foundational. Yeah.
This is the big piece, because this piece has a lot of implications for the rest of the summer, because obviously defensive midfield players have been a real big I don't know, they've had a second coming in the last 5 years. Everybody really wants to have the best possible player in that position. Declan Rice should not cost as much as he does, but all of a sudden it's a very trendy position to have. So I think this is going to have a lot of implications. I also think a lot of Real Madrid players right now might have to get moved on. I just think it's going to be the way it's going to end up working. But when we talk about players moving on, this is kind of a sad story. It's a bit of a bummer. But Lewandowski just not in love with Bayern Munich anymore, openly talking about the disrespect he's getting from Bayern Munich and saying things like what kind of player who will want to go to Bayern when they've heard how they treat their players. He's kind of come back and said he doesn't want it to be like a sour grapes thing. He doesn't want it to be a bitter breakup, but he's definitely calling a shot. He wants out of that club. And I think the top rumors are that it's going to be Barcelona.
It's not even a rumor. He
No,
says he only wants to
Real
go to
Madrid.
one club. I think this guy wanted to stay, and I have to say, because they've been trying to negotiate this contract for 6 months. Apparently, the report is he is so dumbfounded with the lack of respect he got from Bayern after everything he's done from them. He just wanted to sign like another 1 year, and his whole attitude was, the
Yeah.
goals I've scored for you and what I've done for you, I should be able
Just
to
give him
write
what he
my
wants.
tick.
Give him what
Give
he
me
wants.
what I want, at least for another season. Apparently,
weirdness.
he's so disheartened with the way, it's not even that he wanted to leave, but the way they handled it, he gave a big fuck you guys. I'm going to go public. I'm forcing myself out. And apparently he only wants to go to Barcelona. It's sad. And I think Bayern could have really used him. He's a machine and he's still in great shape. It's disappointing.
He's going to tear La Liga to shreds.
Oh
Tear
God,
it.
is he ever?
Tear it.
And that's,
He's so good.
you know, I don't know if it's going to be enough. They're such a weird club right now, and we're going to talk about some of the developments that's coming out of Barcelona. But even if they want to sign him, they're financially so strapped that I think they're going to make it happen, because I think he's just such a good talent, and I think for commercial reasons as well, he's probably going to make a lot of sense for them. And they do have to keep up with Real Madrid, who are probably going to start pulling away pretty dramatically in La Liga. Because all this talk of Barcelona's financial issues, Real Madrid have never once really missed a beat when it comes to that.
They took care of that stuff 5 years ago.
Yeah. Remember
Yeah,
they
like
didn't
they-
spend anything for like 2-3
Yeah.
years? And then all of a sudden they bought
Still
Hazard.
won
and-
Champions Leagues
Yeah.
while they were like in a rebuild. Like even now, like they're
Yeah.
a rebuilding team and they won the Champions League. So I think La Liga is going to quickly become a joke, which is kind of a bummer. But we're a Premier League podcast, so that's fine. That doesn't hurt us. But what happens next is that obviously Bayern Munich, who are still a big draw, have lots of money, are still one of the top 5-6 clubs on the planet, are going to need somebody to fill in this position. And the talk of the town is that it's going to be Sadio Mane playing top of the key as a striker for Bayern Munich. As you've known probably more than anybody else about this, but he sounds like he's been talking a lot in the press. And I don't know if what he's saying is like him just having fun with the press, because it has an element of that to me. But I also feel like I can't remember him ever talking this much to the press. So there's something to it, because he just keeps flapping his gums.
Yeah. Well, he's not funny. He's a world-class player, but like he's not a comedian. So all of this stuff that he's trying to like put across, I don't know how it comes across in French. So I shouldn't be too judgmental of his comedy prowess. But like, I don't think the translation of what he's saying is going to be a Netflix comedy special anytime soon. Like he's just dropping jokes here and there, and I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. It's coming off as a little bit disrespectful, but I'm not being disrespected as a Liverpool fan, because I think it's just lost in translation a little bit. And 6 years is a long time, and he gave his peak powers to Liverpool. If he wants a new challenge, if he wants a new payday, no issue with it whatsoever. Liverpool obviously need to replace him, and we'll cross that bridge, I think, later in the summer, or maybe we did in January with Diaz, which I don't want to think that there's not going to be an extra signing to help boost this as well. But I think the time has come to an end, unfortunately. My only thing is what happens with the transfer fee, because if you know something about Liverpool's transfer committee under FSG, they're very stubborn. Maybe not quite as stubborn as Tottenham, and to get their price, which is a commendable thing. But I think they're up there. No, like you don't think getting the best price?
Not at the fault, or not at the result of a bad squad, of an unhappy player, of a scenario where you don't get the player you want because you're not willing to pay for it. I think being extra careful can ruin the potential for.
I think Azaz is talking about selling players.
I know,
specifically.
but even selling,
Brian's completely right though. Think of
money
Eriksen
coming
not
back-
going, Dele Alli not going.
the money not coming back into the club that you want. It's
100 million for Gareth Bale.
There's some.
Pretty
It was
good.
80, not 100. So, but yeah,
80 million pounds.
Yeah,
It was over. It was the record. It was more than Ronaldo. It was 100
80
million.
pounds at the time. It was 80 million
Yeah,
pounds
but
at the time.
I mean, yes, they got a lot of money for a player, Dave. But like our point is, they held on to a lot of guys that they could have got a ton of money for. They
100%.
kept them, and then those guys got disgruntled, and then they went to shit.
And the value,
basically.
or they just played poorly and they didn't. Like
And
Dele
that's
Alli's
not
the prime example.
one or
of it.
two examples. There's a fair amount of examples.
Let's go back to Sadio Mane. So, as my understanding is that after the Champions League final, he did come public and say, I'm done with Liverpool. I'm going to try a new challenge. My understanding, there's a $25 million bid that's come in. Do you know how many years he's got left on his deal at Liverpool? Is it just one?
Yeah, that's why it's so low.
All three of them have got 1 year. So Mane, Salah, and Firmino, and Naby Keita's deal.
That's a bad situation for
Yeah.
This could be bad, right? Because you have
could
to
be great
think
for
that,
the rest of us. Come
well,
on.
here's the thing, right? Yeah, but here's the thing, though, right? And let me know what you guys are thinking about this. Like, we all know, and as you keep me honest here, Liverpool don't pay those big wages, right? I don't even know if Bayern Munich do. Yeah, but I was gonna say, so Salah with the
they pay in bonuses, generally speaking, is my understanding. And I think we spoke about that as when we were talking about Liverpool, that a lot of the deals are structured based on bonuses, based on performance, and of course they've been performing at the highest level. That's gonna, when they go to another club, that might be completely different, but they're getting paid well despite maybe their weekly wage.
I guess the question is this: is like a Mane and a Salah, are they going to say, "Hey, we're not like 22 anymore. We're not 20. I need my final payday," right? Like, could this be a scenario with Mane? And I mean, we've heard a little bit
for the
from
final
Salah.
payday? How old is?
I don't know.
I feel like they got
late
another
20s?
contract in them after this.
So they're both 30, 29,
gosh.
30.
That's kind of
Yeah, they may have
Maybe.
another
It's on the
contract
cusp
in
of it, isn't it?
Yeah, they may have another contract in him. Mane's been very streaky though. Like everyone's now talking about the Mane that came back from AFCON, and yeah, he was wonderful from February onwards. But like the previous 2 years, he was nowhere.
In and out,
like
yeah.
he was. So it depends which one they're buying. I'd still like to keep him. Don't get me wrong. Like I feel like it would be amazing if we could just hold on to them for another couple of years and make a transition while they're still there. But I mean, again, like when I was talking to Paul yesterday, like the two games where when we beat Man United 5-0 at Old Trafford. Sorry, guys. Mane didn't play.
Why are you
that
apologizing?
one. Yeah, no, I'm just playing. Mane didn't play in that game. The previous May, when again we won at Old Trafford, Mane didn't play that game. So like, there's already fixtures. Like
I know you're using the Man United game as an example of what should have been a tough game, but I mean, it's not.
Yeah, maybe not in the
not
last couple of
really-
years.
No, but they were second in 20. They were second in 20.
That's true. That's fair. That's fair.
right.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is I wouldn't do a Gary Neville and start writing Liverpool's eulogy right now, because it's not Mane, it's not Salah, it's Klopp. Like Klopp is the guy that needs to leave for Liverpool to fall off. Like he'll just make it happen. Watch what happens with, like, even we came top four with like Nat Phillips and Reece Williams in like centre back, and Ozan Kabak, right? Like Ozan Kabak's like had 2 relegations with other clubs, and yet for Liverpool he managed to come in the top 4 2 years ago. So yeah, I mean, with Mane and Salah, like it'll be a horrible end of the chapter, because they've just been part of everything that has been great about the club in the last couple of years. Salah's committed himself to next season, but I don't personally see him extending past that. I think he wants his big payday. But
Yeah.
from all intents and
Just holding
purposes,
on for that for sure.
yeah,
So,
it just feels like it's the.
Let's
man
ask
who's
this one
got it.
question because we did a director of football video, so I have a pretty good sense of like what players do you like, but that was a very fictional,
Mhm.
broader game. Let's say Mane is out. Who is the target you're looking to bring in? And is it a striker or is it a left winger you want to bring in? Like, I know it doesn't have to be like for like, I know it doesn't have to be replaced by one player, but like, let's say hypothetically, like who's the guy Liverpool fans are all looking at as saying, well, we need somebody who plays in the left or down the middle. This guy looks like that.
It's a complete like toss up between Nkunku, who I bought in the fictional director of football game because that was price based, and Darwin Núñez. They're the two names that Liverpool fans and the media, like the Liverpool media, are talking about. Two different players. Darwin would obviously play as the number 9, but he's played on the left as well before. Bigger guy, but by no means like a classic target man. The guy's got touch.
No.
He's got aerial ability as well, but he's more rounded than what a traditional number 9 was.
He's fast as hell too.
And he's fast.
Yeah, he's pretty fast.
And the thing with Nkunku
Oh.
is he doesn't have a position. Like that's for better or worse. Like at the moment, Nkunku has played in midfield. He's played in attack. He could come from deeper as well. So yeah, in an ideal world, it would be one of those two. But obviously, there's so much competition for their signings as well. Like it's not like other clubs in the Premier League or even other teams around Europe aren't going to be looking at those two as well. So yeah.
What about if because he wants to go to Bayern Munich? What about like a swap deal for Serge Gnabry? Like that guy is, I would say, almost on par with Mane and would fit into that. I hear a lot of talk about Darwin Núñez. He's like the hot topic. Same with Nkunku. I think to get into this Liverpool team, you need to be a little bit better than that. Like the expectation is you need to be technically elite. You need to be smart. Gnabry would be an incredible replacement for Mane. I think those other two are like almost a level, at least 1 or 2 levels lower. Like, and he apparently wants out of Bayern Munich. So why not try to make that work?
So Nkunku was the player of the year in Germany, and he
Was he?
Yeah, and he was the 4th top scorer and the 3rd in a second or 3rd in assists. So he's had a brilliant breakout season. But I do rate Gnabry. I feel like Brian will know it as well. Like I think was it 2 years ago?
But shut up! I don't want to talk about that game.
Yeah.
Okay, he scored 4 goals against us
Yeah.
Did he?
So,
in the Champions League. It's fucking
Oh,
nightmare.
fucking hell.
yeah.
I think
so-
Gnabry is also a little disgruntled with his role within the team, and that role could easily be elevated because Lewandowski's moving on.
Yeah,
So the
he can
situation
score, man.
changes. Like everything
He
in that
comes up.
clubhouse
He's a
changes.
left-sided forward, right? Like I mean,
It's
at
like
least he was-
Mane.
Yeah, he basically the same position as Mane.
Yeah.
That's my understanding as well. So I think what Connie's saying is correct in that, as far as like style of players, profile, where he fits into the pitch, into the formation, I think he would suit that for sure. And he has the ability; it's there. And if you put those players around him, he's going to be very good for Liverpool. If that happened, I like the shout though, Connie. I think it's a good one.
I feel like Bayern
don't
like
see it
will have
happening,
to
guys.
play as like a false 9 next season. They have a lot of attacking options, but you just don't replace Lewandowski. But apparently Gnabry's like, hey man, pay me or I'm out of here. I'm gonna get the money somewhere else. He'd fit into Liverpool really well. I'd puke.
Yeah.
I'd be disgusted.
Can
but
you
he'd be
can
great.
you really see them moving on Lewandowski and Gnabry in one window? Like
If they got Mane and
they're a
somebody
well-run
else,
club. I'll put it that way. They're a well-run club. They won't do
Yeah,
that. They won't
you're right.
bet their
Yeah.
entire attack that way. But who is not a well-run club? It's Barcelona. Barcelona. So this story is a little bit about Man United transfer rumors, but it's also largely about the situation in Barcelona because it's so unique. They are so financially strapped and they are so thirsty for funding because they have plans. They still Lewandowski is not somebody they're not going to sign if they can get him. They'll probably get him for well below market value because he's being so vocal about wanting to go there and will force his hand. But they're in a position right now where they actually have to look at their assets and maybe at a loss move some of the players on. Frankie de Jong is a player who went from that really great Ajax team that went to Barcelona. He's Dutch. He's fantastic. He's technical as all hell. He has been played largely out of his preferred position at Barcelona. As a result, he has not set the world on fire. I think everybody who's worked with him has said that he's very talented. And when you play him in the right position, he's uber talented. Xavi has come in and apparently he's improved quite a bit since the manager changed. So it might have just been a manager situation. None of that really matters because he is probably their most sellable asset, and Man United are probably the most aggressive right now about approaching to purchase this and basically give the money that Barcelona need. So Dave, this is probably more of a question for you than anybody else. Frankie de Jong to Man United, reunited with Erik ten Hag, somewhere in the vein of 70, 75 million. Do you like this move?
No,
Is
I
this
don't.
taking advantage of a good situation? No, you don't like it?
I think it's too much money for a player that's that slender and not. He's technically really. I have a lot of risks. Like I've watched him in La Liga. I've seen him play poorly. I've seen him play really well. I think the romance of him back with Ten Hag is great. But the number one reason I don't want him is that he's come out publicly and said Barcelona's my boyhood club. I don't want to leave. I don't want a player that's not dying to play. I don't want a player that. Our club or my club, our club, Paul, isn't his first choice. So that's probably my number one reason. But even if he did want to come, I've got some concerns about him playing in the Premier League in the midfield. He's not a big guy. I mean, maybe like De Bruyne's a big dude. You see some of the other big guys playing in the Premier. You need a physical stature. I could see him getting knocked around. I mean, he could come and be brilliant and shut me up, but I don't know. I don't see it. I'd love to get the opinion of you guys, hypothetically, of what you think De Jong would be like playing in the Premier League, like maybe even for United. I have concerns about him. I think the price tag's way high, considering how many other players United need to sign this summer.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him technically being very good, but I agree from a physical perspective. I think he would struggle. I think he'd get knocked around a little bit. He's a bit slight, short, so maybe the low center of gravity helps. But I would be thinking that you guys would be looking for a much more physical, stronger defensive midfielder that's going to control a football match. I know that he doesn't play in that position necessarily, but that's probably should be United's focus based on what you guys have. Of course, there's going to be a lot of players coming and going, but yeah, other than maybe his relationship with your new manager, I think it's a bad
A lot of
choice.
money though, too, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a ton of dough. It's a ton.
We
of
have
dough.
to buy a lot of players. Like we got like 9 or 10 players leaving. We at least need to buy 4 or 5. And you drop 75 million on a player. Like
Is that the number 75?
It's high. It's high. It's high.
That's way too much money for
I want to jump in too. I think he's a great player. I think he can do well in the Premier League, but I don't think he would be put in a situation at Man U that would offer him a path to success. He doesn't have the players around him in the midfield to help him flourish. He doesn't have that really concrete, like big, beefy center defensive mid that some teams have. He doesn't have the options that he wants, and I don't think he would necessarily gel well with some of the other players. So I don't think this is a situation that
Like
would
who?
thrive. Like players that he would probably potentially have problems with.
I mean,
Well,
it's a specific thing to say that you don't think he's going to gel with
him
players.
and Fernando Fernandez
trying to
would
s-
actually
yeah.
be like that. I don't think they would have that chemistry, that combination to them that I think like maybe Bruno has with Cristiano Ronaldo, where you just kind of feel like they're on the same wavelength. I've watched Frankie play a few times, and I just don't think those two would really complement each other well. I think they would. One of the things that I don't think Man U do well recently in the last 2 or 3 years is that they get players and they get really good players, but it's like the wrong puzzle pieces and they don't click well.
I think
he's not wrong. He's not wrong with that, but
No, he's not wrong. I don't know
about
they're
the
doing
Fernandez.
so many things different right now that the mistakes of the past don't necessarily mean they're going to continue this way. Like
I
to
understand
say
I
that
just don't think
as an
it-
example, like yes, right now if you plugged him into this squad, he wouldn't work out. But there's nothing this would not be the only transfer this summer. Like we will be building a midfield officially. Like Erik ten Hag is not coming into this Man United squad without saying, I want to build a midfield. Like De Jong is a great starting point, but they're going to bring in some other guys to play around him that are
I
not
feel like he's a guy to
dominating front.
sprinkle onto a midfield to make it better, not like he's a beginning point with a few other pieces, you know?
I'm going to go right ahead and say I totally disagree. I think this guy's a fucking elite talent. He's 5'10". He's a little slight, but he slides
5'11".
by guys. He's so smart on the ball. He can pass between the lines. He has vision. He knows exactly what Ten Hag's system's about. He knows exactly what the Premier League's about because he's played them enough times in Champions League games and not looked out of place against the bigger bodies that are Premier League players. I think he's a great, like, honestly, he's a guy you can build a midfield around, because he's a guy who dictates pace. He's a guy who moves the ball around. He's not Paul Pogba is a sprinkling of gold dust in a midfield player.
Yeah.
This guy is a build your midfield around this guy kind of player. The price tag is heavy, but the one thing I like about this is the price tag is heavy, but we would still be getting him away from Barcelona for less than they spent for him in the first place, which is always kind of nice.
I think he'd work if you had, like, he'd have to restructure, and Ten Hag's going to do. You'd need a 6 in the Premier League for him to, like, a strong and this is where I'm with JP.
Big 6.
I see, because I've thought about this a lot. Frankie de Jong works in that team if 2 things happen. You get a natural 6, and Bruno Fernandes changes his position, and it actually becomes like a 4-1, like 3-3, like, and it needs to kind of be built around him as the engine room with protection, because again, he's gonna need. I think if you buy Frankie de Jong, he controls the midfield. He gets the ball, and it's his job to either create to the forwards or get the ball to Bruno. Because listen, nobody created more chances in the Champions League or the Premier League than Bruno Fernandes. He's not a defensive player. He's not a great possession player. He's an out-and-out offensive machine. Get him the ball. Frankie de Jong can do that, but you need a big 6 sitting in front of that back 4, in my opinion.
I got a question for you guys. The difference between, and of course, you know the players better than I do, probably both of them, but Van de Beek for me is a similar profile to de Jong. Is there, for you guys, what's the difference in like what they're going to bring to the club? And again, like I said, I caveated that with I don't know either of the players that well, but it seems to me like you're looking at a very similar type player from a very similar system with a similar previous manager.
De Jong is quite a bit different. He plays much deeper. He's much better at being the metrodome for a team.
Yeah.
Like, he's much better at knowing when the right time is to get the ball upfield and not.
Because you guys need that desperately. I wasn't sure if he was more in that sort of.
I think a lot of Man United fans and the critics have kind of noticed that we don't have a defensive midfield player, but like we actually just don't have anybody who can play the ball. Like, you can defend by having the ball under control more. The best defense is ball control. Like, it's not always breaking up play and attacking the midfield with its destroyer mentality. 2 players that can play in a double pivot role where they can dictate control of the game, it protects your back 4. Everything improves. It's probably the most important kind of combination in a pitch when it comes to like actually running the show.
Somebody beside him essentially that can handle the physical side of things, right?
Behind him that would probably be a bit more of a physical player, like I don't know, like a Ruben Neves is not the most overly physical player in the world, but a Ruben Neves and De Jong combination, ball control, switch of play.
I think they get beat up a little bit, to be honest. Those
Neves can tackle, man. He's hard.
Ruben
I was thinking
Neves
like a De Jong Basuma is what, or a Rice kind of thing, like that.
Makes more sense.
The point being, though, Van de Beek is a very different player. He's a little.
That's
bit more
why I asked. I didn't have enough info on the players.
Yeah, he would have been more of a 10 in their system back in the day. He would have been somebody that he can play deeper, but when he plays deeper, he's slight. So it's really more about. You play those games where like you don't really need to worry about defending too much. Like, if you're defending a low block all game, that's probably the advantage that you have of having those guys play at the same time, is that you're playing deeper, but they can both unlock a defense. So yeah, for me, bottom line, if this happens, he's a vast improvement to the current midfield of Man United. It's not the end of the project when it comes to building a midfield by any extent, but it's a major chunk of what I want to see, which is quality and ball movement and ball control and just, build around this guy and stop fucking Paul. Does he
go to a Europa League team? Is that a scenario where you like? Is that an issue for you guys? I'm not taking the piss.
No, he's commented it on already.
Is he? Okay,
I think, and I guess this is the other point. I think he wants to stay at Barcelona. Barcelona is where he wanted to go. For forces that are now beyond his control, he is slowly getting pushed out. When you start getting pushed out, the draw of your former manager becomes very important. Man United are still a huge club. Yeah, we're in the Europa League this season. I don't think that's going to be a huge obstacle because it's just one season, especially if there's like, a plan or a project presented to him. I am not as against the idea of it's hard to get a player out of a club, therefore you shouldn't want to get them. Alex Ferguson wrote about it in his book. He liked it when it required some convincing to get a player out of their club because it actually showed their character and loyalty to the club they're in.
Yep.
Like when they're so eager to get out of their club, what does that mean when happens to like they're in your clubhouse?
It means they're dodgy.
Yeah,
good point.
I don't like the idea of having to bribe guys to get out. I don't like the idea of having to like spend more money than you should to get a guy to move on because that's not very like productive.
This move could be
I don't worry about it much.
circumstantial, though, in order for Barcelona to get some of the other pieces that they really want. And I don't think Xavi necessarily wants to lose De Jong, but if they can get 70 million pounds or euros or whatever the number is, and I know it's high, I think that frees up like a run at Lewandowski. Maybe if they re-up Dembele's, like they're trying to rebuild kind of the same way Real Madrid is, right? They've been in a lot of trouble, but they have to get some money, right? And again, we all remember that Ajax team, Brian. You remember there was 2 world-class players, De Ligt on defense and De Jong. De Jong is world-class. A lot of money.
So let's coincidentally bridge into the conversation of De Ligt because the news now is that the new ownership of Chelsea are going to give Tuchel the actual control of transfers, which is not what was happening under the Mad Russian, and project rebuild the Chelsea squad because it is a little bit of a rebuild right now. Obviously, they lost their best defender, their best center back, who has gone off and signed for Real Madrid. And apparently, De Ligt, at 22 years of age, at almost 90 to 100 million from Juventus, is wildly attached to Chelsea this season.
Really?
As a replacement for... And this is going to be a lot cooler if I can remember his name, but I'm totally blanking on the big German Rudiger. There he is. Who's like he was like one of the best the center backs in Chelsea for sure. Certainly, obviously, and the Premier League
are absurd. Yeah, he was very.
Oh
good.
yeah.
And
Right.
Chelsea also lost Christensen, who is likely to sign with Barcelona if he hasn't already. So their defense is due a pretty major overhaul just to get back to what it was.
I think is going. I think the Spanish right.
Alonso wants to go.
Alonso also going. Yeah, they're losing 7 or 8 big players for them. Now a lot of them are sort of, I wouldn't say past it, but sort of at the end of their cycle at the club. But yeah, I mean it is not a little rebuild. It's a big rebuild that Chelsea are having to do.
Lukaku.
And especially, I mean, I don't think it's an offensive problem. I think they have a lot going forward. I'm not saying that they're ticking the way they need to be, but they have a lot of players in a lot of those positions going forward. Losing 5-6 defenders in one transfer window is going to be painful for them. And I think that is going to affect, unless this new ownership is like, let's chuck around money. It's not going to be as simple as spending the money like they normally do.
200 million is the rumor that the new owners are going to give the manager.
I've heard the rumor. Was it substantiated, Paul? Do you know if that was?
None of these things.
For me, it was like I don't know if that's true. And that was a few weeks ago. That rumor, from what I saw, I knew that had come out. So
the wild thing about the rumor is that 200 million doesn't even sound like that much, considering the amount of work they have to do on that defense.
It's not,
because De Ligt is like
70, 80 was going to go for probably.
I'm hearing like 90 and 100, and that probably comes down to like, are you hearing pounds? Are you hearing?
So still, that's
euros?
that's nearly half.
It's almost a straight swap. Lukaku.
Yeah, like you lost Rudiger, so you're going to spend this much money on a kid who's 22, who has been part of a very successful Ajax team, a really underperforming, pretty garbage Juventus team for the past 3 seasons. Has to be said.
He's their best player, though. That should be noted. He's their best player by a mile. He
they
really
also
is.
want that Sevilla center back, right? Who's
Jules Koundé.
Yeah.
De Ligt is Juventus' best player, and he's a Rolls Royce. Like, he is a Rolls Royce defender. And like the last game I watched him play for Juve, I was like, yeah, get him to the Premier League. Obviously, he's going to be a rival, but he's built for the Prem. He's a machine. He's smooth on the ball.
Yeah, suits him for sure.
It would be an incredible signing. But I was going to make that comment, too. I think they're still heavily linked to Jules Koundé as well, who I think is like 70 million, right?
They need both of them, really, to be fair, to manage their situation, I think.
I'll
It'll
take
be interesting to see how this new ownership deals with it. Be really interested.
Jules Koundé's partner just signed for Aston Villa.
No way.
Oh yeah, Diego Carlos signed for Villa.
It's his partner. I don't know what you're
Yes,
saying.
are they?
His center back partner?
Are they in a relationship? I
Are
thought
they
you meant
holding
for the.
hands? What's
I
going
thought
on?
you meant for the.
They're holding
I thought you meant for the women's team, man.
Special time in the month.
Can I just say as well, Chelsea bad planning if Rudiger and contracts and all these things were coming to an end. How did the Tamori go? One of Canada's finest, even.
I think Zaz, I think a lot of what happened was they had plans, but those plans have been kiboshed due to Abramovich's situation. It wasn't a scenario where they were like, oh, whatever, we'll see what happens. It was oh shit. Now they've got to sort of figure out what they're going to do based on something they didn't know was going to happen.
Tamori been brilliant at AC Milan. Like,
he's
holy
been fantastic.
shit, good.
Wow. I mean, if you want to know why Tamori left, you have to blame Frank Lampard. Like that.
Yeah,
that entire scenario was like went straight to Frank coming in, not playing him, and basically him going, well, I'm good enough to go somewhere else, and the entire thing soured. And Chelsea, yet again, with not shocking with their track record, have a young talent who's 2 years away from being a superstar, and they're not patient enough to give him a chance to break into the lineup and bed him in. They cut him off.
He'll end up at Liverpool in 2 or 3 seasons, winning the league.
Have we seen that movie before?
We have seen it a couple times.
It's terrible. So I guess one of the questions that has to be said is like, this is, again, that was Chelsea of the past, when Chelsea were maybe dogmatic about the success now approach because they could afford it. They could spend the money to not have to wait for these players to emerge. The Mad Russian was an impatient man. We all know that. He fired how many managers based on little blips here and there? Is this new approach of giving all the funds on a manager even the right thing to do anymore? Because I question, like, I'm all about, support the manager, give the manager the backing, but at the same time, managers do fail. Managers do eventually get fired, and if they have that much control, it just makes that transition so much harder to deal with if you're giving them the entire say of what the transfer policy is going to be. That is the appeal of the director of football position. That is the appeal of having somebody else who is more of a permanent fixture, because they never get fired, for fuck's sakes. So that is a little bit of a concern, but I think that's what I think a lot of Chelsea fans are going to be looking for and like holding their breath about is, what is this new ownership all about? What is our new approach to transfers and building clubs? And is De Ligt the impact flashy Hollywood signing that gets everybody on board to say, hey, no, we're the new owners and we're still going to be backing you? And are they prepared to overpay on a guy who's, again, he's a stud, he's 22, but is he 100 million stud? Like,
I think we're going to see a lot of problems at Chelsea going into this.
I agree.
It's not going to be smooth. Don't get me wrong. I recognize they're a big club. It's not me saying it's Leeds like I did a few seasons ago when I was being ridiculous. But it is a scenario where we have to take into account the situation. They did struggle at the end of last season. This was part of that. Recognizing that there was other issues at the club as well when it comes to the players and the performances, but this will affect the way they play going into the season. And of course, these owners are new to it. It's American owners, the 9th American owner in the Premier League. They don't necessarily fully understand what they've got themselves into and what it takes to maintain a club at the highest level for a long period of time. And I think they've as much research as you can do in this scenario. I think they're going to struggle a little bit.
They're in a massive transition period too.
Luke Connolly is one of our boys. He's watching us for some reason, and he's like commenting on stuff, and not shocking because
you missed his first comment.
No, he is obsessed with this Louise and the Louise female Aston Villa player. Love. Every single time Luis started playing,
he says
poorly,
it's me, but it's not me. It's him.
He kept bringing up that he was now dating this other like Aston Villa player on the women's team, and it was like, oh, I'm not saying anything, but he's got a girlfriend now, and he's not playing that well. I'm like, man, your fear of commitment cannot be expressed like this.
He wants a football Love Island, is what he's looking for.
He also wants to talk about. He also wants to talk about how big your neck is.
Apparently, he also thinks my name is JD now. So
yeah, that's true.
He must be been drinking quite a bit these days.
I think that's happening.
Could we go back to Chelsea for a second? Because I think Brian said I actually look at that team and I'm worried about them next season. Like I read today that Lukaku's basically begging for a move back to Inter, and it's looking like it could be a loan. He wants out. I think like their center of midfield is aging. Who's the Italian guy that I'm thinking of?
Jorginho. He's
Jorginho, yeah.
Looking to move him on. There's talk about Conte and losing Rudiger. I think the biggest problem is they don't have any identity in attack. Like, who's their starting 3 or 4?
They don't
Havertz
have
maybe.
the ability, Connie, to do what they normally would do
Yeah.
and just fix it with purchases. I mean, it doesn't mean that they don't have some money, but they don't have the normal kind of we're going to fix it, we're going to fix it, we're
Well,
going to fix it. They
Phil,
have
that's
they
all
have,
good.
they have players
Hang
they
on.
have players in their system that they've loaned out, which they probably we've seen when Lampard came in, they were able to bring some of those players in and make them functional. I just think it's going to affect them a lot. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
So here's the hot rumors of that. Jorginho is likely going to be moving on. I think he's kind of done his time in the Premier League, and it's a safe thing to move on. Conor Gallagher gets bedded into the first team.
Oh, forgot about him.
Let's not forget about him. He's a stud in the making. Moussa Dembele was a star at Borussia Dortmund under Tuchel and is available on a free this summer. So there's a lot of talk of reuniting a guy who's kind of got a second wind in his legs at Barcelona, but maybe got it a little bit late at his time as Barcelona and is kind of disenchanted with the whole Barcelona experience. Could maybe get a fresh start going back to Chelsea, playing under Tuchel, who again loves him and has said incredible things about him off the I've actually heard it described that the two of them are really tight friends, which is crazy. So I mean, Moussa Dembele playing on the right side of their attack next season, a Conor Gallagher being more of a box to box in the middle.
Yeah.
They're not spending any money all of a sudden. They make a little bit of money with the possible sale of Lukaku if they do so decide to move it on. Let's say they get 50 million for Lukaku. They're not using him at all right now. Like 50 million invested in anybody is an improvement to that team because they're just it's a nothing transfer. They're going to lose some money. That's a bummer, but I mean, they're going to improve. And then if they do get 200 million to spend and they're going to spend it on revamping their defense, they might get a better defense out of it. Like Azpilicueta has been a really good servant for the club, but a Jules Koundé probably is going to be an improvement either next season or the season after that to Azpilicueta. So I actually think they're going to have a lot of pretty interesting moves this summer. I don't think all of the moves are going to be the big spending kind of moves. I think some of them might be like the clever little astute things like Moussa Dembele, who's still a bit of a gamble because he is an injury-prone
Are
player.
you calling
It's Ousmane. It's Ousmane
Dembele. Yeah. And he's maybe the most injury-prone player in the world. But to Paul's point, when that guy's on, he might also be the best winger in the world. He just
doesn't play enough, right?
He's had a pretty solid run at Barcelona the second half of this season. There's some talk of like he's maybe like taking his shit more seriously. He got married, so now apparently he stretches before games and stuff.
That's a big one. We know how relationships can affect performance.
Watch out! Here comes Luke.
He had a very checkered background, Dembele. I mean, the talk when he was at Dortmund and then he moved to Barca was that he partied all night. He did whatever he wanted to. Sometimes he showed up, super late to practices all the time. He had a terrible reputation among the clubs of the world, saying nobody wanted him and Barcelona took him. And now he's starting to clean up. Maybe it's because he's coming to that end of that contract. He knows he needs a new club. He needs somewhere to go. We'll see.
He's so good when he's on.
Get the rails, I think, for like playing video games deep into the night and then showing up tired for training and stuff. Like
he was playing World of Warcraft, honestly.
Yeah, pretty wild stuff.
He's the guy who one of their directors said is better than Neymar when he first signed. But also, I think I was reading it like he came top in either La Liga or Barcelona for assists this season. So there is something there. Like I do think he's got the potential, but I agree. I think Brian was saying it before. Like I feel like he just doesn't play enough.
Keep him fit. If you can keep him fit, maybe. But
yeah. But then when you read things like that, you're like, well, if he's not playing a full season, because he only played just over half a season again in La Liga, and yet he's finishing like top of the assists, like that's pretty amazing.
One goal,
just got to keep him
this season.
That's nuts. You just got to keep him fit. Only one goal though, too. Like I mean, I guess his goal
score
really high. But
one goal, 13 assists in 15 appearances.
That's incredible. Wow, that is the XG on or the XA on that is ridiculous.
Extremely effective from the wide area, like deadly, can beat guys, great control. But he's injured like more than half the fucking time.
Yeah, only 15 games. I mean, that's not enough.
Look at that transition. Look at that transition. So here's kind of the wild thing. I mean, Gareth Bale just plays football to make money so that he can golf,
Play golf.
and so that he
And
can
play for
represent
Wales.
Wales.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he loves
And
his Wales.
just represent Wales. That's all he wants. So now there's this wild, potentially true story that this free agent Gareth Bale could take a position at Cardiff City in Wales, just so that he could be fresh for the World Cup when it comes in December. And I actually can see
It's
it
November,
happening.
but yeah,
Sure, I can see it
December.
happening.
Isn't it December? November and
November
December.
starts.
I
In
guess.
November. Starts in November. Yeah, end of November. It's fine. I was
Critical
just
thing
being
to
a bit-
clarify, guys.
Yeah.
But can this
It
happen?
is.
Is this wild?
I think it's nuts, but I also think it could happen. I mean, he's 32, right? 32, 33. From a wage perspective, not a lot of clubs are going to take him on and pay him the wage for him to probably sit on the bench, or at least come off the bench in the
Just
70th
get him
minute
5
kind of-
country clubs membership.
He,
He'll be fine.
he just needs to stay fit, right? And so, I mean, I think he'd be a great squad player. But do you think of Gareth Bale as a squad player? Does he think of himself? He goes with his family. He goes to Cardiff, where his family is good. Prepares himself for the World Cup. He's been preparing this for his entire career. It's what he cares about the most. I can completely see it. Makes sense to me.
But doesn't he still want to, because he's going to be playing in the World Cup, doesn't he at least want to be playing like high level football? Like, I'll throw something at you, Brian.
Has he
What
not
if
played long enough to know what that level it needs to be?
Here's the thing, though. Like, everyone who follows football like us is well aware of what his contract was like at Real Madrid. It was
absurd.
it's
650
astronomical.
grand a week or something.
Astronomical. I don't think money is a big concern for him anymore. I think if, let's say, and again, I'm just throwing out a hypothetical, if he could sign for like Tottenham for very little money and just be
It'd be
maybe,
a free because he's on a free at the moment.
Well, this is it. But I mean, wage wise, let's say he
Wage-wise,
took
sure.
like 50,000 a week or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't a starter, but he came off the bench and did the business. Like, I still think he's a great footballer. He's just older with a lot of miles on him. And to Paul's point, all this guy wants to do is be ready for the World Cup. So I can't see him doing that in any other like league that's a second tier.
He should be playing top level to
Yeah.
get to be at the level we'd expect to see him at the World Cup. You want him to be playing at a reasonably high level, or at least training at a high level. If he's
Yes.
training in a Premier League club, if he's training whether it's Spurs or if it's Liverpool or any sort of club that has that regiment of intense football at a high level, so you're really fit. That's what. If I was him and I wanted to do anything in the World Cup and be successful, or at least get through the group, because that's going to be their goal.
He's injury prone as well, though. He's injury
take
prone
him.
as well.
He is, yeah. He's injury prone.
I'll take him at Villa.
Yeah, him and Coutinho are perfect duds
Yeah.
that you guys can.
I'll take him at Villa for a 1-year deal. Freaking 100 grand, 50 grand, whatever. 1 year, he'll play. He'll have his time, and then he'll be on his way.
Do you have a nice golf course nearby the ground, the
Oh,
training ground,
Yeah,
or
they
what?
have a top golf course.
Okay,
Right
then
near
he-
the training ground, actually.
I can actually see him going to like a Glasgow Rangers or something because the golf in Scotland's way better.
Yeah. You could play
Too
it also.
physical.
Play at the
also-
old course.
But also, that's a Champions League team. Like you don't need to be playing week in, week out at high intensity in a league. You can be playing in a Champions League team and
But I
getting
think-
your legs and your workouts for the
Don't-
amount of time
I
that you're in the Champions League, and then you're out probably. Like if you're Glasgow Rangers, you're out by the time World Cup rolls around in November. He's had his high intensity games by then.
He'll be in the Premier League.
I do think you need to train at that level, though,
Yeah.
to go into a World Cup and to be the best he could potentially be. He probably would rather do that because playing means he can get injured. I mean, you can get injured in training, but it's not as likely. He's better off to go somewhere where he could train at the highest level, get the best fitness he could possibly get, play very little so he doesn't get injured, and go into the World Cup. That would probably be his
I'd be
from a
shocked.
functional perspective.
What a
Shocked if he
wild
didn't end
turn
up
of
in the
career.
Premier League.
What a wild turn of career, though. Honestly, like this
Yeah.
is
It's a strange
No,
one,
such a
isn't it?
drag.
And the amount of goals he scored for real.
Hold on a
Some of the
second.
goals he scored too.
The,
It's
the
absurd.
lack of respect that this guy
Oh.
gets from Real Madrid fans is
They finally gave
disturbing.
him a proper send off. Did you
Did
guys
they?
see
No, I didn't see.
that?
They fucking should.
when at the end of the season when they did the walkabout around the lap of honor, he finally got Gareth Bale's name was announced and the crowd went nuts, and he went over and signed some shirts and did a little love in, which was well deserved.
Only
come
took
on,
him, what, 6
five
years?
Champions Leagues.
Yeah, is that good? Is 5 Champions League good?
Not even just being a part of the team, but winning one of them in particular, Azaz. That
bicycle kick.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, that is. How do you not celebrate that guy? I think it's just English players in a Spanish league. They're just not flary enough.
Agreed.
They're not playing the way that they're used to seeing, so they just assume that they're bad. But
Oh,
he was
Gareth?
incredible. He was incredible.
Oh, I think it's also been he just hasn't been available for such a long time.
Oh, his
That's true.
injury record isn't helpful. I would agree with that for sure. 100%. Yeah, it's a mess.
Premier League for me. I'd be shocked if it was any other league than the Prem.
So let's talk about the Premier League next year because there's going to be a new rule and it probably has some implications that's worth talking about. 5 subs next season.
Big one.
I mean, this is so
This
my
is a game
interpretation
changer.
of this is
It is a game changer.
the haves and the have-nots will be separated more so now than they've ever been before because the depth of a squad is a have situation and the have-nots do not have that ability to bring in 2 extra players, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 2 extra players, 2 fresh legs, 2 proper
It's actually
midfield
4,
players,
arguably.
defenders, attackers.
Yeah.
It's going to be it's a big deal, man.
It's good
It's
for Man
funny,
City.
On this point, just to start the conversation off, Conte came out and sort of talked about this when he was talking about getting backed by Levy and Enoch, and specifically said in his I think it was his last interview at the end of the last game of the season, said we have 5 subs now. We need at least 4 more players than we normally would need in order to ensure that we have enough depth in the squad to manage that, and especially with the amount of games we're going to have. So it was one of the first things he said. So recognizing that the importance of this and what it means to ensure that there's depth in those positions. I do think that we're going to see some of those better teams and those teams with more money inevitably sort of getting there quicker and being able to manage it better. And I think I think it might add to the golf in the sort of quality to the the shittier teams in the league, unfortunately, because of that. Despite me agreeing that it's necessary with the amount of football that the teams are playing, I don't necessarily love it either. I'm sort of on the fence of like, this is bad or this is good. I see the benefits from both, but teams are going to need to do a lot more in this transfer window to deal with it, because you're going to need a lot more depth. And again, it's not just 2 players, despite it's 2 more subs. It's depth across the board in every position, because you're going to want to potentially be able to sub any one of them at any time and need another player to do it.
But I will say this, though. If you look at a team like a Liverpool or like a Man City, look at how many games they play in a season. And we know what happens with injuries and tiring out. Like, some of those top-level teams, they need it, right? Especially if they want to compete in Europe. Like, this is... Like
I agree.
If I heard like a Klopp or a pep talk about this, I think they would be thrilled in the sense that not so much about changing the game, but being able to manage players and getting rest and rotation. I think it's going to be huge for that, again, at the top end. But yeah, if you have like a lower end team, like whoever.
If you're in Aston Villa, you're going to struggle in the center.
Well, this is it, right? It's a depth
dying
thing.
to talk. Let's talk. JP's dying.
That's why I threw that
I
in there,
know,
because I
that
just like
too.
dig.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's such a weird thing, because when I first heard this,
I just thought it was hot in California, JP. That's
No, I mean it's
Guys,
really
let's all just
fucking
look
hot.
at JP's sweat. Look how he's sweaty
I'm
he is. right now.
dying. It's so fucking. I'm drinking like a frozen Pellegrino. Like, I'm dying. Just because I like that drink, actually. At first, I actually really thought this was a great change. I thought this really needed to happen because it was going to reduce injuries. But the more and more I think about it, I just feel like this is a pandering to the top 5 teams. All those teams that are in the Europa, they're in the Champions League. This is a way for them to continue to be there.
Be better. Be better
yeah.
than JP. Be better.
They could, this is a way for them to rig the system, because they have the money to have those top players, to have a squad of 25 top players where their bench guys would be starters on any other team, and they can just hold them and they can just hoard them for this kind of moment. and it allows them to continually go through these extra leagues and make them those subs. To me, what was so important, and this is kind of harking back a little bit to the Sir Alex Ferguson era, was that he did win multiple titles a year with only 3 subs, with using so much more youth players than what is used now.
Different game now, though. Different game. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
very different.
It's a false equivalency. The Premier League is completely different. The players that are in it are completely different. The system, how it functions,
Finances.
it's just not the same.
Finances, sure, like all that stuff's just gone out the window. But
Dude.
but you're not helping. There's nothing here to help the lower teams. This doesn't
Dude,
help them.
We have a team that plays in our league, JP, that can buy a guy for $100 million and sit him on a bench for half the season. They don't even need to bring him on. Like that's
You're aware
like,
of that player, I believe, right, JP?
I've never heard of him.
yeah, but like that's the team. Apparently, when he came on, he was good. That's the team that like is just going to have a field day because they can rest all these world class players. But yeah, I agree with what JP's saying. I don't know if it's
the league.
fair.
I mean,
yeah, it's
Anthony
getting
won it 4 times in the last 6 years. Like, are we becoming the Bundesliga?
I'm going to call. Well, that's a separate conversation and not related to this. Thank you very much. I'm going to call it out. What I think is the real driving force behind this, and I think it's going to not change because it comes down to money. It's not necessarily about the Premier League. It's about all the other games these players play at the international level.
Oh,
and
for
the
sure.
non-stop requirements for these star players to turn up for their countries.
Mhm.
There's way too many games being played, and there's way too many players hitting early breaking points in their careers or pulling muscles and missing extended periods of time so that the actual organization that's paying them millions and millions of pounds or dollars or whatever are not benefiting from their availability because they've been going off to the Faroe Islands to play a game that means nothing. So at least having the opportunity to have 5 subs is a way to hopefully mitigate the damage some of these players are potentially doing themselves by playing so much football. The unnecessary and unintended consequence is the teams that don't have international players to the same degree, which is, bottom half of the table clubs traditionally, don't need to have that break, don't need to have that rest. They're not in multiple tournaments with their club team and their international team. So they don't necessarily benefit from it. In fact, they potentially suffer from it because now all of a sudden Brighton could be defending for 80 minutes and 5 new guys step on for any of the top 6 clubs. And those 5 fresh legs might be the difference.
Yeah.
So So the thing is, obviously, the money helps those top teams. To me, it's just like this. This doesn't even seem like a hard issue. You have the 3 subs, and then you should have the 2 extras, and those 2 extras should be players that are 20 or under.
I think
You
they
can
should
make
be.
those
hold
second
on.
clubs.
I think they
Hold
should
Why
be
not?
youth players. No, I think they should be youth players. I think that's a good idea. I like that.
You can get the guys.
You're
off.
not the
You
first
can
one
give
I've
the
heard
player
suggest that.
chance.
I like it. I think it's appropriate.
Hold on. I agree with what JP's saying if you want to be fair, right? But let's remember one very important thing. Football, much like anything else,
Johnny's used
is
to
what?
not being fair because
What
he's,
is
he's
it?
a man.
It's
used
a
to
No.
it's
Don't
a
say it's
business,
about the
right?
money.
Hold on.
Don't say
It's
it's
a
about the money.
fucking it's a business. So when they bring in these new rules, who are
Then
they
go
going
to
to
the
cater
Super
to
League.
more?
Fuck off to the Super League.
Well, I
It's
get
a
your point, and
business. It's about the money. Fuck off.
and
Is
I
that-
no,
I
but
think
I'm
That's
saying
not what English
but
soccer is.
no, and I agree with you, but I'm saying that's why it's happening. Like, I'm sorry, like a Liverpool and a City and a United are bringing in more revenue than fucking Brentford and West Ham. I'm sorry, and but for being fair in sporting reasons, JP, you are 100% correct. But I'm saying let's be adults and be aware,
I'm always
right?
gonna go for the sporting reasons.
I know, but we know why it's happening, right? You understand that, like
Right.
that's they're catering to that, of course. What do you say, Azaz?
Bullshit.
I think that just having parity with the rest of Europe is very important for the Premier League as well,
Yeah.
right? Like it's already like you can be a top 4 Premier League team. You're probably in the quarterfinals. We're representing like, and this is a Premier League show. We're usually like 3-4 teams in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and yet we have to play on like a Sunday and a Tuesday or a Wednesday and a 12:30. La Liga does not do that to its teams.
Christmas.
Serie
Yeah,
A
they're very
doesn't.
nice to them. They give them
Yeah,
a break. They're
yeah,
like,
because it's a privilege, and
Yeah.
we have this thing where it's like people
Tradition.
want us to be penalized for being successful in the league, and it's like, sure, cool, I get it within the league, but like that whole thing is, and the whole point about like the money and everything, like the money is in the other league as well. Like just earlier today, we were talking about how many people Real Madrid are buying, right? And like in the 90s, Italy had the most money. In the
Italy,
2000s, Spain had the most money.
Cycles through
So, like,
cycles, yeah.
yeah, the leagues go in
Yeah.
cycles as well. So it's hard to really justify other leagues doing it and us not doing it. But I think Paul did the mic drop, which is the players are done. They're burnt out.
You can
Like,
see it, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
you
like
can see it.
watch Salah after
Who
this
said it?
break. He's just going to come back to going back to who he was, and he was a shadow of himself after the thing. And it's
After
just,
AFCON,
AFCON.
yeah, just too much
Yeah.
football and too much
Too much
travel,
football.
too much in it. Yeah.
Someone tell me, I think it was an EP. I'm almost positive it was an EPL player. Maybe it was Kane, who literally said that he got an interview question about the Nations League, and he said, "Honestly, we don't give a
Bruyne.
damn."
De Bruyne.
Bruyne.
De Bruyne. He's
yeah.
like, "Honestly, we don't care. We don't care."
yeah,
it's-
Ronaldo fans care. Ronaldo fans really care, but nobody else.
But
cares.
that's the point that he's making, and I think that's important. That I think the players, when the players get to a point where like we don't care, even if it is playing for their country, that means that it's too much football.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
time to slow it down, cut it out. I mean, of course, the biggest issue, or one of the big issues, was catching up with what was missed during the pandemic. So we got behind weeks,
It's not
months.
about catching up.
No, it has been up until a point.
That's the cover name, right? It's about catching up. It's just about making
let me
as much
finish
money
my
as
point. It's not a
possible.
conspiracy, JP. It's a
That
scenario
was a
where
real thing, man. Like,
they
come on.
literally didn't play football for a couple of months, and they had to catch up. And so the end of the season overlapped with the end of other things, and then started early, and then that buildup of that much football over the last few years has been a problem. This is supposed to, arguably, as JP is saying, is supposed to address that. It's addressing other things as well, but you can't take that, discount that completely. It's been a massive issue, and they've had to catch up, and the players just are tired of it. I mean, we love football, but we all get tired of it too. Look at Connie this season. He just got tired of it. He didn't want to.
He just got tired of
He didn't want to
losing.
participate anymore. We all get tired of it. It happens, right? And you could imagine if you play that much football week in, week out, eventually you're just gonna be like, "Fuck
It's-
me, I am
KDB even
tired."
did it. Like KDB even he called it
He
out
said
in a
it.
way that everybody should be able to understand. 3 weeks of vacation away from what you do for a living in
It's not a
12
lot of
months
vacation. Yeah,
is not a lot of vacation, and that's
it's actually
regular.
pretty. It's actually pretty standard though, isn't
and that's
it?
not like
No,
like,
hold on,
no,
though.
no,
But
no,
they-
no,
Spread
no,
out usually.
They don't-
What do they
get
do for a
weekends,
living, man? He literally
yeah.
plays football all the time. His body
and they
needs
don't
more
get
of a
they
break
don't get
than that.
weekends off. They don't
Right.
get away from
Yeah.
they don't get
No,
away
they
from their
do.
job. But
I'm totally
it's
agree with
also
that.
like the physical nature of that is unique. There is not a lot of sports, especially North American sports, where you don't get at least a
Yeah.
month, 2 months to recoup, rebuild your body, and especially the rebuild, because you can see what happens to these players. Like it's not a shock that England go deep into the Euros and then they come back and half that squad had a hard time getting back into the swing of the Premier League. Some of them had like real physical issues that like were carrying over into their actual paying jobs, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody's going to like apologize for their bodies being broken down. They're just going to get lambasted by the press, and it's only going to make things worse and worse and worse. And it's you do, to a certain degree, have to feel sorry for these guys. Yes, they are playing a sport where they kick a ball into a net.
They're still
and getting
human,
paid
though. They're still human.
tons and tons of
Yeah.
money, but they are still human beings, and they are making tons and tons of money for the people that are asking them to spend all this time on pitches and traveling.
And we throw them under the bus as soon as they're shit for
Oh
30
my God,
seconds.
yeah, totally.
Get out of my club. You're shit for
But-
30 seconds.
And that's all true, and I think that is the most important part. But you can understand JP's sentiment in a sense where it will hurt the lower level teams, right? Which is a shame. But I mean, again,
I don't think it's going to hurt his team. They've got enough
Don't give me
money.
your pity here, bro.
Yeah, pity him. It's fun.
It's true.
JP's goalkeeper just decided he didn't want to play in one of the most important games of the season. Like,
No.
that
He
just happened?
was having an on injury that he had for 2 weeks,
Oh, sure.
and it was
Sure,
like
sure.
he actually had
Sorry,
gotten.
he was.
He was supposed to be
I
out
saw
in
him
2 other
drinking
different
mate
games.
and being like, "Yeah, fuck Liverpool, fuck the integrity of the league. Like, I'm just gonna sit."
To
this
be
out
fair, our
so I
backup
can
did
play
just fine.
in
It
finalissima.
wasn't our backup's fault we lost. It's because Man City
No,
has
and
fucking
I'm
$100
not
million
saying it
players
isn't.
in every position.
Yeah, it's true.
Fair point.
What else we got?
That's it, folks. Unless anybody has anything else, that's a a good hour of conversation.
odd,
We just
yeah.
tackled.
I enjoyed that quite a bit, actually.
It was
Very
good. It was
free
good.
flowing.
Not full Premier League, so that we got into a little bit of other things, which is nice to do for once. We don't normally do that, so yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Spurs are going to win the league. Everybody excited about that? Or?
Well, okay, before we finish,
Villa's getting second.
and I know it's hard because the transfer window, I think, opens, I don't know,
January,
in
June 10th. June 10th.
June 10th,
Oh
so
my
3
God.
days.
Here comes the classic Dave Convery. I know we're almost done, but I'm going to ask a simple question.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
take
yeah,
10
yeah,
minutes
yeah.
It's fun,
to answer.
though. It's fun.
30
right?
minutes later.
It is fun. We don't do enough of this stuff though. So Brian, I'll make it simple because it's hard to ask. One, how much money do you think Spurs are going to spend, and how many players do you bring in, and where do you finish? And don't go on a tangent here.
I'll try to keep it- I'll try to keep it tight.
Rapid fire.
How much money do you think they'll spend? I think they'll probably spend somewhere around 200 million, 150 to 200. I think because of the amount of players that will get sold, there's a lot of players that are going to go that are going to leave.
Oh, you're talking net. You're talking net.
Net spend, yeah.
Okay, okay.
I'm not talking.
No, that's fair.
Net over and above. Yeah, we need to sell 6 players. We'll probably sell 3 or 4. We need 6, and we'll probably bring in 3 or 4.
Are you including your loanees that you need to officially purchase?
No, because they've got different deals set up already. So Romero's on a his deal is on a whatever once every 6 months or something. We pay a bit of money for it. Kulishevsky and Bentancur. Kulishevsky's going to be saved till next season. Bentancur is going to get sort of sorted similarly to Romero. And yeah, I think it'll be funny. I think everybody's going to be pretty surprised the amount of money Spurs will net spend, because of course they will be responsible about it, but they will spend more than we've seen them spend before because Conte is getting backed properly.
And where do you finish?
3rd.
Can't really argue it.
I mean, I think the 200 is a little high, but the 3rd I think is right on the money. I think you guys
Yeah.
can
Net
definitely
spend though, JP.
do that. Yeah. I still feel it's a little high, but
Yeah, maybe, maybe, but if
Yeah.
you look at the players that we're in for and the what we need to sort out, and what Conte's asking for, I don't think it's that far off. But yeah, maybe a bit high, which is fair.
It's
To,
so early to ask this question.
I know. I
Yeah,
loved
Yeah,
it.
it's,
I mean-
still fun to ask though.
Yeah.
I guess,
Really or
but like,
otherwise.
what are we basing this on? It's like you don't know who you're getting yet. We don't know how much you're spending.
Well,
we don't know what the other
current-
teams
Hold
are
on.
doing.
Current squad, the way the other squads
I
are
think
looking,
it's pretty easy to base it
I'd
on.
probably pick Spurs 3rd right now before even the window started. I worry about Chelsea, and I think the top 2 pick themselves, but
Since
I don't
January,
know.
Spurs the 3rd best team in the league but with every stat. So
Yeah.
it's not.
yeah, but we
it's
all
not
know
rocket surgery to pick
the
it.
league's long. The league
I
season's
rate your manager, man. Your
I
manager.
think that's the thing that you have to take into account. Conte it's Conte. That's the difference. He took a squad that was 9th when he came in and managed to finish 4th, and played some very good football, some shit football, but to make a lot of the players better, the way he did is impressive, and he's going to do that with very good players if he gets what he wants.
I'm not going to argue any point anybody's making. All I'm saying is we can't even have this question posed yet.
Right.
We don't know what anybody else is doing yet. We don't know what the moves actually have been or will be for Spurs or Chelsea or for anybody else.
We
So-
can predict
Well,
it.
Villa's made
we
2 moves
can-
already.
We can
Luke
predict it based on
Kamara
what we
and
what we
Diego
know they've
Carlos.
done previously. Like it's not rocket surgery. You can look at clubs and what they've done in the last 3 seasons and go, this is probably what they're going to do. And you
Cool.
can rate the people they have in place
And
who've
you
done
have
it.
given
and
your
failed.
prediction as asked. I'm just highlighting. Wouldn't put a lot of stock into it.
Okay.
If Brian
You might
were
be
an
right.
80s song, if he were an 80s song, he'd be the king of wishful thinking. But I love it. Glass half
Yeah,
full,
I mean,
baby.
I guess I don't think it's wishful thinking. I think it's a bit harsh, but I think
Long summer.
I think I have been the king of wishful thinking in the past. I don't think in this case I am. I think you guys will.
Well,
be
to
surprised.
Paul's point, what if Chelsea do a bananas window? Then I think a lot of people would be like locking them in for 3rd. He's right. There's a big window to go. There's a lot of teams with a lot of work to do. And again, I always bring it up. Stop forgetting, and not saying everyone is. Remember that big other money machine we have in the league now called Newcastle. Be aware of them as well.
Too soon for them, but yeah, I feel you. I agree.
It'll be really
I just
interesting.
I think if you look at all what's going on in the top 6 and who's in what position, it's despite we don't know what's happening in the transfer window, it's not difficult to predict what's likely going to happen. Of course,
Big
it's
summer.
like
Big
it's
summer.
likely. It's a big summer for sure. Go ahead.
I think
JP,
I think
sorry, man.
it's difficult to predict 3, 4, 5, 6 without knowing what those teams land on. But I think Brian's got every reason to be optimistic about his chances for
Yeah,
third.
for
But
sure. And I am,
it's just-
and that's
it's
all
just-
I am.
I personally wouldn't even ask him to make a prediction right now because it just feels like, well, what do we know right
Well,
now?
what are we gonna do? Not have any content? That's the point of the fucking podcast. Is to ask
Well,
questions.
I kind of was trying to end the show, and
I
that's
know,
why I
but
was
I
like,
wanted
why are
to
we
keep
asking
going
this
because I was-
hypothetical hard
I
question?
wanted to keep
at the
going.
end
I was
of the show.
enjoying the chat with Connie, and I hadn't had it in a long time.
I'm
So-
excited
I
to
know.
watch
Where I was
Azaz
like, Dave,
football
why are you
manager for
giving him a
Liverpool.
chance to talk
I
about
love
Spurs
it.
at the
I
end
love
of the
it.
show.
Yeah, I'm
Let-
supposed to
let's-
be doing a football manager as well. I don't know when that's happening.
Yeah, when the fuck are you doing that?
It's all ready, so I'm just waiting on Paul's.
Yeah,
trigger.
so Dave gave me a PowerPoint. JP typed out all his picks, which is nice.
Oh right, he wants
Zaz
me to
gave
type it for him. This is a problem.
He sent me a photo of a handwritten piece of paper.
We had this conversation the other day, or the last time we were here. You can read it. What's the difference?
My resentment for you to write it down like that and make me read it, and
Oh, no.
my
'Cause
inability
you
to
have
cut
to
and
read it
paste
anyway,
your
like,
words and actually
makes
have to
no sense.
manually type stuff in, which I don't like having to do for people when it's their show and I'm just
So you want to
producing for
copy
it.
paste? That's all you're asking for. You just want
On that note,
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking for, Brian.
All
What
right. You
everybody
know what?
else
I'll do it
do-
again. Just tell me when you want to do it, and I'll set it up for you. Just let me know when you want to.
Anytime you send it to me, Azaz sent me his picks, and we did the show like a day later.
I sent you my picks a month and a half ago, and you didn't like it because it wasn't.
And I
perfect.
told you, don't send me a picture of a handwritten napkin.
It's a fucking piece of paper, not a napkin. You dumb nuts.
Just send him an email, man.
Right here. Can you guys read that? Okay.
No, I can't.
I mean, it's faded out. Or
all
it's
right.
like-
You know what? Forrest gets the vote here. You fucked up, dude. You need
I didn't
to
fuck up anything.
Look
It's
at that.
real. Like I can read that. That is not hard to read.
Type it out. Type it out.
How hard is that to read? Give me
Type
a
it out.
fucking break.
How hard is that for you
Oh.
to type out instead of making me do the work for you?
Yeah.
I'm not your fucking
Takes you
secretary.
5 minutes to type
I'm
out.
the
You're gonna
editor.
have
Type
you have to type it anyway, Paul.
I don't.
type it out because I want to see the Spurs show.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the Liverpool one. I want to
I
see
will
all the
do
shows.
it. I will do it for Paul. He's being a whiny prick. It'll happen.
Do
Fine.
it for all of us. Do it for all of us.
I will do it for you, Connie, because you. I like you today. I like.
Dear
And I
viewers,
like Azaz. I think
viewers,
JP. I think JP and
you,
Paul
you
are a
tell us
couple
what
of
you think
pricks.
is going on. If somebody says, "Hey, I want to do a show," type this out for me. Do you think it's asking too much that you go
It's
back
actually
to them and
not
say,
what.
no,
It's actually.
I
Paul,
don't
it's
want to
actually
type that
not
out
what
for you.
happened.
You type
You
it
know
out.
what we
not
should
what
do?
No, it's actually not what
Stop
happened. Wait,
the
wait.
show.
I didn't.
Somebody stop the
Of course,
show.
no. This is fun. I didn't actually ask him
Hey,
to
we're
type
we're
it for
doing
me.
your show right now. Go
I
through it.
asked him to look at it and tell me if it was okay numbers wise. I didn't ask him.
You
I
know
didn't
what we
ask him
should
to type
do?
it for me. That's not what happened.
You know what we should do? Because I don't
Paul-
trust me, Brian, or
making shit
Paul, or
up again.
JP. Why don't we make Azaz the moral compass of the show, and he decides
Yes.
what's right, what's wrong? He's the most reasonable and level-headed out of all of us. Azaz,
been
what
on
should
the phone
happen
half
here?
the time.
Before we sign off here, should
Yeah.
Brian send
I'm
it
gonna
in an
make the call.
email, or is the paper copy fine? You decide.
No, I think Brian should type it out. And then,
Yeah, and I
then
will.
then
It
Forrest
says I
copy and
will.
paste it.
When I sent it to Paul, I didn't
a little
ask
bit
him
of a
to
frame
type
up,
it for
guys.
me.
He did send
That's
it
not
to
what
me
happened.
while I was on vacation in Mexico, and I was like, "Cool, but what do you want me to do with this?"
And I said, what do you think of these numbers, Paul? Are the numbers okay? I didn't say, hey, type it out for me, bitch. Which now I actually want to say because he's just being a whiny prick. It suits
feel-
the scenario, but that's not what happened. So I will do it. I will type it for you, Paul, because it'll take me about 2 minutes, and you
There we
can well, then we can get together and we'll do the show. I'm looking forward to it. And
You
hopefully
guys
next
can
week-
expect to see Brian's transfer show when hell freezes over
like when Spurs win the league,
Or
it'll be around the same
tomorrow,
time.
depending what happens first.
20, 21, 75, something like that.
Sure, we'll take it. Anyway,
All right.
it's normally my job to end the show, but Paul, this is your show, so I'm leaving it on you, buddy. Unless you want
Say
me to
goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.
This is the North End.